All right. So slow week, right? Like we said, right? I'm really looking at our daily closures, right? And that's pretty much what I'm trying to base any type of bias off from. All right. So as you can see, right, we have literally from a swing scale, right? From a swing scale, right? We're still bearish. Right now, the thing is something that's kind of bothering me a bit, right? Is once we start zooming in, right? The immediate leg, right, has been taken out, right? And whether you want to consider this the immediate leg or this the immediate leg, that's fine. But they're both broken. The thing now, right, is the thing for me is that I'm acknowledging the fact that we have equal lows here. Very significant equal lows. Why? Because this signifies two rejections from that potential candle there, right? Showing two potential rejections. So that's inclining me to believe that the bearish order flow, the bullish order flow is not there, is not intact, right? So why are we seeing the recovery here though? Well, right, as you can see here, right, the same thing happened here kind of, right, where we had equal lows. Equal lows were taken out, immediate reaction, break of structure. So this is now considered a liquidity grab, right? Which is naturally why we're taking out this high here. And that's why this type of POI here is not quote unquote probable in my eyes, right? And the reason for that is for one, right, even though we're not mitigating anything from here, right, this is our immediate leg, right? But even though that's our immediate leg, right, we have to acknowledge the fact that we have liquidity here is taken out, then immediately have a break of structure, which then leads, right, to potentially taking out this high, right, because of liquidity. And not only that, but you have 1, 2, 3 fat candles there. I'm not trying to sell from there, you know, it just doesn't theoretically make sense to me, especially once you start zooming in. Or you could say break of structure, right, pull back, not very sufficient, meaning there's still POIs left up there, right? So you now have, you know, the initial delivery, but that is a pullback to this impulse, right? So this bottoming out then leads to break of structure, meaning that this is now 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So picking lows is, picking highs here is extremely tough. But you know, in kind of playing devil's advocate in comparison to that bullish bias, where you have to acknowledge that this is extremely fast, right? Meaning there is an efficiency here in a grand scheme of things, right? And by that I mean probably H1, H2. Yeah, H2, H3, H4-ish, right? That's extremely fast, right? Meaning I know that eventually we're gonna at least reach back into a premium of wherever this wants to hide. But the thing is it doesn't realistically make sense for me to try to take this as a break of structure, right? And let's say wherever we, you know, wherever we top out here, right? It doesn't theoretically make sense for me to do that. Why? Because from an overall scheme, we are bearish, and two, I'm acknowledging the fact that there's liquidity here. So it's not a matter of whether those equal lows are probably going to break. It's a matter of when. So just, you know, trying to build a case, right? That immediate area, right? You see the interruption in price, then the continuation. That to me shows that there is some type of structure being played out on a smaller time frame. Right, so, right, I'm now looking at this immediate leg, wherever this wants to top out. I'm wanting something like that. The thing is, right, I got a question. Do you guys, why is my name Ant? My name is Ant. What the hell? And why is my picture not on here? Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, I have a question. Do you guys know why I usually tend to focus on the immediate leg? Does anybody know why? And I do this with both, with entries with M1 and M2, and I do this with trying to reach structure on a higher time frame. Right? Does anybody know why I focus on the immediate range? Right? It's not something I've said, but I want to see if anybody can figure it out. Let's see, 20 people on call. All right, can you guys hear me? To follow structure. And what do I say about structure in terms of how your trade should be percentage wise? Yeah, continuations. So right, I believe I got like this question a while back, and it came to my head today. I don't know why. Right, but right, the thing is, like, let's say we have a scalping structure here, right? We reach a POI. Oops, let me move my mouse. Right, let's say there's a POI left over here, right? And a lot of people ask me, like, why are you not waiting for this POI? Why are you trying to take a trade? Let's say this is a bit deeper. It goes like that. Okay, ignore this. Let's say someone's asking me, right? Price is here, right? Why are you not waiting for this POI to be hit, and why are you trying to take it off this POI? That's just for the simple fact, right? Continuation, right? And it obviously varies by scenario. Why? Because, for example, this leg, this might not be a substantial new high as it is here, right? It's very subjective. But the only way I'm going to get this POI here is if I get an initial structure break, right? And I cannot assume a structure break until it happens. Same thing with the liquidity grab. You cannot assume a liquidity grab until you get the structure break immediately after that. Exactly, you're continuing order flow. And I don't know why that took me like a while to figure out how to say, right? But you can usually narrow down, especially these scalping time frames. You can usually narrow everything down to two POIs, right? Usually two high probable POIs, right? So sometimes you can have an SL that fits both. Sometimes you can take two positions. Sometimes you can split your position. But this is the exact same thing that I try to use with structure, which is why I focus on the immediate leg, right? And this is what's going to be called a structural range with the new material. So I always focus on the immediate range when it's pro trend. If it's against trend, then it's completely different. But for the most part, I don't like trading counter trend in any scale, to be honest. And even though it's technically a good thing, it's kind of a bad thing too, because sometimes it hinders my ability to be dynamic and my ability to hedge positions, because I'm just so stuck on pro trend. Oh, eventually it's just going to go up. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen, right? So you must cover yourself. The thing is too is not taking hedges will also lower your overall risk profile that you're putting yourself in, right? So it's obviously it's distinct per person, but I just thought I'd say that. But anyways, right, back to this. Right, so like I said, right, I don't care about this immediate range here. Why? Because we have, like we said, the equal lows, right? We then had the immediate structure break after we took out the lows, and we left equal lows in the bottom, right? So after we've seen the structure break, I know that this bearish order flow is now not intact, and theoretically you could start looking at POIs here, right? Which, like I said, right, this inefficiency was completely valid because it gave you the reaction, just didn't give you the follow through, and that's just because of the narrative that is built in hand, right? Whereas we took equal lows, right, even though we didn't break structure here, right, it's the liquidity grab that's immediately catching my attention, right? And not only that, but the speed of how fast this is moving is also a big, red flag for me. So for me, I now see this as liquidity, and I'm focusing on my full leg here. Well, not my full leg, but my immediate leg here. My full leg would be obviously this entire move. And it just makes all the sense in the world for, anything like that to happen. It just makes a whole lot of sense to me. It's just a matter of where, when, and how. Because like we said, now looking at EU, right, like we said, right, we're overall bullish. Okay, we're overall bullish. It doesn't make sense for me to want to keep selling. It really does not make sense for me. Why? Because obviously, remember, our daily is still 100% bullish. Right, high, low, right, high. So let me tell you why I'm calling this a low. And that's just because I think we've bottomed out here. So the reason for that, right, is immediately here, right, the open of this candle was tapped, right, and the strong reaction incited bullish order flow on a major scale, right, because we're talking daily time frame here. So not only that, right, but naturally, right, we're trying to consider this to be an SC, right? Well, you guys have to remember too, I believe it's rule 4, that it's not about the push down here, it's about I didn't say that, but it's about focusing on the immediate candle before the final move up. And I think that's a very important rule because not many people emphasize it, right? A lot of people will consider this to be a sponsored candle, right? Have a massive stop, blah blah blah. But I'm not focused on this, right? This is, yes, a push down. We got the reaction. We then have an indecision candle, and then we have a follow through, meaning this indecision has some type of orders in it, right? So I'm not focused on the candle. I'm focused on the indecision at hand here, right? So, right, I would love to see that daily inefficiency, especially if we can tap it, react, and give a nice daily closure tomorrow. And let me tell you why that's interesting. As we're approaching this, right, this is that same high. I mean, this is the high from DXY, but obviously inverted, right? So I'm focusing on this range at hand, right? I'm no longer focused on this inefficiency. Why? Because I consider this to be the final leg here that actually broke a significant structure point, right? This is the final leg that broke this structure point, but keep in mind that this is also the high that broke this entire low. So it's not a full-on structure break in terms of here, right? So, right, the thing here, right, is we now have a very weird scenario, but I think that we've bottomed out for sure, right? Unless we break this. If we break that, then okay, my entire bias is invalid. My entire bias is invalid, I'm sorry. And I'm trying to, and if that happens, then obviously now I'm looking for, a sell-off. But I do not want to play that unless I have the data to assume it, right? And I'm not going to sit here and try to call this distribution, right? It's not distribution. It doesn't make sense for me to be it. It doesn't fit narrative. As you can see, there is no real range. You can see that there's two, always a shakeout before the UTAD, and there is no LPSY yet. So it doesn't really, this doesn't seem like a scam to me. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit narrative. So I'm not going to try to force it. But the thing here, right, is I acknowledge inefficient pricing, and I also acknowledge a structure point there. So I'd love to see what happens here, right? And even after I've derived that point of interest, right, this candle could easily hit. And the reason why I have this candle is because it lines up with the fulfillment of that inefficiency there, even comes into around that structure point tap. It just makes all the sense in the world. And I'm not trying to come down here or even here. It really just depends on the reactions, but it doesn't really seem probable to me. And there is no, how do I say, there is no POI that's being supported right down here. Right, this makes all the sense in the world to me because it's all in relatively the same area. And for one, we have an H4 inefficiency. We have an M30 inefficiency there too. We have a structure point there, right? Right, so I have a lot of confluence there. And also too, like we said, right, this POI here was not attractive to me, even though you got the reaction, just no follow through. I wasn't caring about that because we broke these immediate structure points, right, with high velocity, right, high momentum. So the thing here though, right, is even though we've reacted, I believe this is M4 wick, right, even though we reacted there, right, like we said, it's too fast, right? So if this was too fast, and if we were to actually see a continuation to the downside, I would have wanted to see that immediately. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to see these 30-minute candles stall. I would have wanted to see that come back up, you know, obviously to a type of premium, and hopefully bring that down. But what happened? That's not what happened. What happened was we got the pullback, right, based on the bullish order flow reaction here, right, and then we failed. So now I'm inside this range. Right, so theoretically, I'd love to see anything like that, and then see some type of interruption, breaks of structure there to then go higher, or even here. But you know, it's all speculation at this point. I'm really just waiting to see what happens when we reach there, and then go from there, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see even this here. Like, as you can see, equal lows are starting to form here, right? Equal lows starting to form here. So you could even have a type of Monday intraday that takes those lows out. Because it is still pretty early in Asian session. Glad I took partials. Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I mean, I'm still in from here. But it's looking like I'm risking a lot here. No, I'm not risking a lot, but I'm risking a lot of time. That's what I meant to say. Right, because I've obviously been in the trade for 8 days, right, and I would have either wasted my time, right? But it's all about building the case, and I think I've built a decent case here in the aspect that, right, we've came into that daily candle, we've reacted, right, we've broken the last major leg. I'm focusing now on the immediate leg, right, and I'm now looking at at a discount inside that immediate range. So it just makes a lot of sense. Now, whether it happens or not, obviously not up to me, right? But it's all about building that case. Yeah, I mean, I see why you bought earlier today. So don't get me wrong, it was a valid scenario. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me wanting to buy that high momentum there. But yeah, I don't know. I really want to see what happens during London. Preferably, I hope we don't hit this during London. So that then we can get New York volatility to push us up. And if we do get that, let's say something like that, if we do get something like that, I would hope, right, that our daily closes anywhere here, right? Because now we're looking at a daily potential liquidity grab, right? And it makes a lot of sense. But like I said, I'm asking for a lot here, kind of. But it makes sense, and that's really what I care about. Yeah, like I wasn't trying to buy today too, especially after that H4 closure, right, with strong volume. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. But keep in mind we still do have equal highs up here. So it's just a matter of when. I'm definitely bullish. I don't have a reason not to be, and I think I've waited just enough time. Because don't get me wrong, I've been trying to buy it, but I knew that obviously back here, right? I knew that structure was bearish. Right, that's not a structure point based on that time frame. Right, but I knew we were bearish. Right now, we actually have a case built. Right, where we have this high already taken out. Right, but the thing is, too, is like this could easily be misinterpreted, right, as a liquidity grab, break of structure, pullback, continuation, right? And that could easily be the case built, but I'm just trying to play based off my higher time frame bias. But I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. But I'm obviously going to play based off what happens tonight in London to then see what happens tomorrow in New York. Last one, EG. Right, this is a weird one. Right, continue to fall, you know, like we said. Right, remember what we said here, right, with the distribution in play. Right, you could easily see that corrective movement just fall apart, like we said there. And we are now currently playing inside of that structural range. Right, so we could start seeing a pullback, and the reason why I'm saying that is because we haven't substantially broken this low, right? Notice we took this low, right, immediately reacted, even though we're not back inside of the range. We're starting to pull back relatively soon in comparison to previously how we've taken out lows. So this could easily, you know, start to give you some type of pullback, and I would hope to see, you know, any inefficiency over here try to be tapped. But knowing how EG plays, it'd probably even go deeper. But yeah, this is a solid idea in my opinion. I'd like to see this continue. I have no reason to believe it won't, especially because of this. Right, this is, to me, that's called showing its hand. Right, that's shown its hand. We've continued. We have no reason to not continue again. There was a pretty decent idea or you know, scenario this morning. Let's see. Right, so up here, right, the final POI that makes sense based off order flow. The only POIs would have been there and would have been there. Okay, and this is actually a tendency that I see a lot with EG, and that it tends to break POIs, which is why I don't like to take any type of limits or trades based off POIs. I'd rather build a case to then take that execution. So right here, right, this shows to me that we broke this POI, showing to me that that bearish order flow is still not in play. So if you start zooming in, that means that bullish order flow is still in play. Okay, so all right, what happens immediately after the reaction? All right, pull back, pull back, pull back. This price action looks so weird. I'm gonna pull up this. I don't know why this price action is looking super weird. Okay, yeah, so here, right, so from, right, just something I forgot to say too, right, from a structure standpoint here, right, we're in this range, so the reason why that red line is there, that's your point of invalidation, right? So if I was to have taken a trade based on the POI, right, entry would have been at 38 and stop would have been at 40. As you can see here, right, like we said, because the rejection of the POI, Yeah, okay, this looks so much cleaner. So the rejection of the POI, we did not react from the POI, we broke through the POI. So that's showing to me bullish order flow is still intact. All right, so naturally, right, we came here, we came into this final candle down, push down that created the immediate move up. Came here, right? This shows that bullish order flow is still intact. Okay, so right, bullish order flow is still intact, right? Okay, what happens? We break the immediate structural point here. Okay, so it's higher high, meaning bullish order flow is still intact. We then have the pullback into this wick, right? You can see here push down and this candle close bullish, right? So that came to react that. Bullish order flow is still in play, right? But immediately after that, you get the reaction, right? You see that it came back, maybe mitigated something there, but we now have this, which is your unwillingness, right? So post unwillingness, we have a structure break, right? Or not even a initial structure break. This would probably be like a micro here, right? But the thing here that you have to acknowledge, right, is let's say, right, that let's say this unwillingness was meant to have came back to retap that inefficiency there, right? With this being your point of invalidation here, right? So that came back, that reacted, right? And that did not create any micro high, right? So as you can see here, we tapped again and again and again, right? And we then tapped one more time. So this to me is showing weak bullish order flow because it's taking too much effort to give you that move up, right? So consequently, right, you do get a very high move, a very high volatile move here, right? But no high volume, right? So the difference with what you would see here, and like for example, the example that I just showed you on EU, right? I showed you an H4 candle with big volume. Whereas here, I pretty much showed you an M1 candle with no volume, right? And remember that we always say that the security of a POI, the security of a structural level, the security of anything is much greater in higher time frames, or the higher structural level you go, right? Or the higher time frame POI that you go, which is why we derive everything from higher time frames. So this is in essentially showing us weak order flow. So if I was to want to take a trade here, I would have done it at this wick, right? And I would have put my stop loss above this, right? So it's even a 1 pip. And this just makes a lot of sense to me why we had unsupported volume down here, very bullish candle here, meaning that because there is no supply, no demand, carrying this move, it means that it's going up there for a reason. So actually, I haven't even looked at the seconds time frames here. Okay, yeah, you could even see why I came here now, right? So if you're bold, if you're brave, okay, your position would have been at this inefficiency fill here, and your stop loss half a pip, technically. Right, when in reality, I would probably put like a pip and a half a pip, at least. You also have to consider spread as well. And the thing is, though, is that's easily how you can get a 1 to 30 in 20 minutes. 1 to 30 in from 7:09 to 7:45 in 30 something minutes, right? So this is not realistic, but based on rules, that's technically how you would go about it. But it's not realistic. I would probably put a pip and a half, right? So that makes a lot of sense to me, and that obviously created a new low. Target being previous low, right? Probably put like a pip there. That's already a 1 to 20. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense, right? And it's because we built that case, we built that narrative. And we're not built the narrative, but we read the narrative. We built that case. That was where it clicked for me. Yeah, that order flow stuff is really cool. I was just super hesitant to show it at first. That order flow stuff will be the difference maker in the long run. But yeah, that's, if you guys really like dive into that kind of stuff, understanding order flow, which is why I say that a POI is invalid after one tap, unless it's like the open and then 50%, right? You see why I've made that rule. Yeah, candles will always tell the story. Now, what's interesting to me is I wonder what my professors would say if I showed them this stuff. That'd be super interesting for me. They'd probably think I'm a fucking clown, but I don't care. But yeah, other than that, I mean, not really looking at anything else, right? Right, low with this here, I'd really love to see this low taken out. That's pretty much what I've been waiting for, to be honest. Right, I'm trying to take this long for God knows how long, but I'm waiting to take that low out. Right, and let's see, who can tell me why I'm waiting for that low to be taken out? I've been waiting for ages, since, honestly, since this move happened. Yeah, a month. I've been waiting a month. Yeah, pretty much. Right, the order flow here is still bearish, right? So naturally this is a target. So I'm personally just wanting to see, you know, the break of here, and I'm looking for some type of liquidity grab, immediate structure break, something. And yeah, that would be a very good trade. Very, very good trade. Now what would be sad is if this reacts, but doubt that, honestly. Highly doubt that. Yeah, fully bearish for now. Yeah, it does. I can't justify a buy, you know, like here's the cool thing about focusing on like higher time frame moves, right? Because this happened, I cannot justify buying anything here, because for one, we had that structure break here, high momentum, right? And then we then have this, the bottom out, the pullback, the new range, right? So this came back into a premium and is now continuing lower. So it's just like, you know, I don't want to, like, I could probably sell that. I could get a very good intraday sell off that. I could easily get like 1 to 30, 1 to 50 at least, right? But the thing is, I'm not interested in these counter trend moves, right? I'm training myself for, you know, for the future, right? Because you got to think, right, as a true individual investor, as a true investor period, right? I'm looking at long term, right? Like, you guys know why do you guys know why day trading is shitted on by the community, the professional community? And I said it in the, not the post I did today, the post from yesterday. I mean, not from yesterday, I'm sorry, the post before that. Like, do you guys know why day trading is seen as like such a shitty way to quote unquote invest? Anybody? Does anybody know why? Shit. Let me catch y'all Googling this up right now. Why? Let's actually see. I've never Googled this. Why is day frowned upon? There you go. Yeah. Yeah, you see, yeah. With respect to capital investors, it's not worth it. It is worth it because it's not about what you're doing, it's how you're doing it, right? It's not, the issue isn't day trading, the issue is how you're day trading. So like the thing is, right, one of my professors like just shits on day trading every single class, and I just stare at him because I'm like there's only like 3 people in class, and I'm just always looking at him when he does that because I'm just like, bro. And like he even said that he started off as a day trader and that he never saw success with it, blah blah blah. He said he did get success with it, but I'm like, I know you're fucking lying. Like, if you had success day trading, then you would probably still be doing it today. But anyways, right? The main point is like day trading, is, especially like intraday scalping, is seen as trying to pull money, or for most people lose money by focusing on short-term fluctuations, right? And when you really like understand that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Like, I'm not tripping, right? That makes a lot of sense. Right, because a lot of what trading has become is just looking for those 100 pips, for those 50 pips, 30 pips, 20 pips, right? And that's such a small fluctuation. Like, you got to understand that in EU, right, 30 pips, right? Let's say from 2090, 30 pips, right? That is 0.3 cent. That is a 0.3 cent change, right? Because realistically, you should not be looking, for those 20, 30 pips. You should be looking for those massive swings, which is why I've always catered to wanting to swing, wanting to do long-term stuff, because it just makes all the sense in the world. And if you look at higher time frames, the structure, the order flow, all is much, much simpler, much, much more easier to read than it is on smaller time frames. So what has that been reduced to? That's been reduced to calling smaller time frames noise. Why? Because you call it noise because you don't understand it, right? But in reality, yes, day trading technically is, I don't even have the proper word for it, but it's frowned upon just because of the fact that you're looking for short-term fluctuations, you're looking to pull money from it, right? But like I said, it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it, right? That's why we've never, well, I have, but I don't do it anymore. I don't shit on any other methods. Why? Because it's not about the method you're using, it's about how you're using it. And that applies to like everything, right? It's not about what personal development you're doing, it's about how you're doing it, right? People can meditate 3 hours a day, but if it's bad meditation, it's not focused, it's anything like that, then you're wasting your time. Just like with trading, you're looking for short-term fluctuations with no proper trading plan, models, information, you're wasting your time, right? So I guess that just kind of falls into like understanding value, and understanding risk versus reward, I guess, in the long run. All right, does that make sense? But if you were super efficient at day trading, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, precisely. But the thing is, right, people know that. People just don't know how to do it, And I guess that's what all my research has been to figure out, right? Which is why I'm still in school, right? Because I don't want this to just be a hobby. I don't want this to just be a full-time job. I don't want this to be anything. I want this to be a legitimate profession, which is why I'm actually taking the time to go to school. Right? I want to know everything that I need to know. I want to have a title, right? But obviously, not many people care about that. You don't need a title to make money trading. You don't need the education. You know what I'm saying? But it's about that want. It all starts with the want. A man with a plan, kind of. Right? I don't know. I just always try to tie anything that I understand with trading to real life. I don't know if that's called something. I don't know if that's like if there's a word for it, but yeah, pretty much, yeah. That's why I'm focused on school. That's why I'm focused on longer term, anything, you know. And I guess it's really helped my psyche and just bring my overall level of calmness much better. Yeah, the financial sector opens the third eye, most definitely. So now imagine being in the financial world and then understanding that you're woke and then, you know, doing your own research. I think that's one of the biggest things too, is just doing your own research. I guess it makes you a bit of a weirdo, to be honest. You for armored. Hey Joshua, when did you join? Last week? Keep studying, bro. Keep studying, please. Please. Pay attention to the process. I'm pretty sure Sergio told you about it. Yeah. So like, you know what's funny? Whenever I get these questions, right, and I ask somebody how long it's been, I'm like 90% right with whether they're new or not. And it's just because I don't want to say the newbies, but like the new people, they ask the exact same questions. I don't know if the people that have been in the group for a long time, I don't know if you guys have acknowledged that. And it's not a diss though. Just don't see it as a diss. But I'm just saying, you know, you see tendencies with people over time, just like you see tendencies with pair over time, right? So it goes back to me connecting everything, making it make sense. But yeah, Joshua, just keep studying. And if you have that same question after the first step of the process, then go ahead and ask me. Right, but other than that, do you guys have any questions? If I was exposed to this when I was younger, I would have taken the financial path. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, bro. It's not too late. You can obviously you don't have to pay to go to school. You can buy like buy classes of stuff that you believe is valuable to you. Like for example, you could take investment courses. You could take high level finance courses. But yeah, it's never too late. Like at the end of the day, school isn't the end all be all type of thing. Oh wow, your dad graduated at 53. Dang, that's respect. Yeah, there's actually a guy in my business in the global environment class. He's four. I don't want to say he's either. No, I don't. I'm not gonna say his age. I think he's in his 40s. But he's completing his degree because he's retired from the army now. So I mean, dude's in his 40s, putting up with all these teenagers in there speaking nonsense just because they want to complete their career. You know. There was a 33-year-old in my frat. That's funny. Bro, nah, don't get me wrong. School is a pain in the fucking ass. But I only do it because I want to, and I do it because I have a plan set. The only reason I'll ever tell somebody to go to school is if they have a plan set. If you don't have a plan set, then don't waste your time. Right? I wasted my first like semester, my first year in a semester because I didn't know what I wanted to do and I was just in school to play soccer. Wish I could take that back. I'd be graduating next semester. Now I have to do 2 to 3 more semesters after that, you know? Yeah, the tenacity to execute. You also have to have the patience. You gotta have the patience. The patience to put up with professors, the patience to have to sit down and study. Not even sit down and study, sit down and do homework. But yeah. Yep. Mhm. Cause school is not hard, like, at all. I used to think school was hard. Like, school just takes up a lot of patience. Yeah, then just set designated times for yourself. I'm pretty sure you designate times to trade, right? To trade, to study trading. Like, just make that clear. Like, at the end of the day, right? Communicate. Yeah, school is so easy, and especially when every homework assignment is online, like, it just tempts you to not want to learn a damn thing. But at the end of the day, I kind of need to learn certain things, so I pay attention more in certain classes. Others are just blow off classes that I know I need to take to graduate. So you gotta be smart with making your decisions too. But my biggest weakness is definitely how lazy I am. And even with things that I like to do, like, I'm just a lazy person. But then I don't know if did you guys see that one time where I talked about that? I talked about that in a Q&A on my personal page. Right, my laziness maybe isn't my worst attribute, it could be my best. Right, people think too hard about stuff. Um, so maybe my laziness is actually my third eye. Who knows? Now I have student loans. Yeah, I have student loans too. I should be graduating with like a, about 20K ish. Which isn't much. Yeah, it's not bad at all. And once you pay them off, your credit is going to skyrocket. So don't see it as a short-term liability. See it as a long-term asset. That's how I see my loans. That's why I'm not paying them off yet. I'm not trying to stress myself over something I don't need to pay. But in the end, it's going to help me. So who cares? But yeah, other than that, do you guys have any questions? Cool. We can end it off here.